Evening, everyone. It's kind of late, 7:30, but this is your closing comment for Tuesday afternoon. And it is video number 674. And I remind you, if you like the work, hit that like button, hit that notification, and join with your free subscription to the channel. Okay, so we started off this morning with a bunch of news, none of which was particularly good, and at the end of the day, that's pretty much the way the market took it. Retail sales down 3%, industrial production down 2.2 versus 0.5 up expectation. The housing numbers were not meaningful. Import prices up 1.3%, export prices up 1.6%, but that was not really for manufactured goods. That was really more for commodities, the food commodities in particular, oil in particular, copper in particular, all of which, as I've been saying now for 9 months, are showing plenty of inflation and prices are moving higher. The Dow finished down 127.51 or 0.4%. Not sure whether that was the first down day in 7 or 8, but it was the first down day in a while. Internals were 2-1 to the downside, so nothing overwhelming. The NASDAQ was up 1186 or just under 0.1%, and advanced declines there were 2.3-1 to the downside. The only saving factor is that the volume was also down about 15% from yesterday. The S&P, after making a new high, finished down 623, really not much. The two big losers were the Russell down 40.65 or 1.72, and the transports down 221.94 or just under 1.6%. Information technology and communications were the only two strong sectors. On the downside, we had energy, finance, industrials, materials, and consumer non-durables. Okay, so consumer discretionary, sorry. So basically, everybody's waiting for their checks so that they can go out and spend money. It isn't happening right now, so the hope is that it'll happen soon. Okay, we had some earnings today also. One of the real surprises, considering how strong the market has been for this group, was Lennar, the builder. They beat both top and bottom line, and the stock, which had closed actually down $1.87, I believe, $1.34, after the report of that beat, actually rallied about $1. The kicker there was that Lennar was an investor in Open Door. Open Door went into IPOB, I believe, the second Chamath Palihapitiya SPAC, and the stock was a runaway hit. I mean, the SPAC came out at 10 or 10.5. The stock traded over 30 today before turning down and closing around 27, but it has been much higher. In fact, I owned it and sold some well into the high 30s, and I believe maybe 50 shares in the 40s. In any event, anytime that a company makes 30 or 40% of their earnings on a non-recurring gain, that's suspect, and I assume that's why the Lennar did not act as well as expected. CrowdStrike, CRWD, beat both top and bottom, and it had closed 196.31, down 4.25, and after the numbers, it traded up to 207 and a half, and it actually closed up 685, or 3.4%. And Coop, C-O-U-P, this is a cash management business software. They beat on revenue, but kind of strange, very convoluted earnings statement where they had a miss. They had a loss that was a little bit bigger than expected, but they also had some voodoo accounting that ended up giving them an adjusted gain for the quarter. So the stock had closed 271.94, and that was down $9.82. On the headline, it traded up to 302, and after that traded down to 255. The last was 278, so up about $6 off where it closed, but still down 375 on the day. Moderna is in the news again. The stock was 156.02, closed up 12.36, or 8.6%. They are now giving their COVID vaccine to kids from 6 months to just under 12 years as a method of creating a trial, and a rather large trial at that, being that it is a Cambridge company, which is right outside of Boston, for those of you who don't know. There are plenty of ads on TV that they are looking for subjects to be involved. Roblox, which was a deal last week, traded up to 77, up 486 today, 6.7% on the first buy recommendation since the company has come public from Stifel Nicholas. It was the high close at 77, although it only matched the high from right after the deal came. And CPNG, this is Coupang. This was a $45 direct listing that opened at around 63.5 or 64 on opening day. And I'm not really sure what this is all about, and I'll explain to you. The stock traded up to 69, and then on the day it closed 49.25, which was still up, but certainly $20 off the high was not terribly impressive. Today it had closed at, it traded down to 46.25 and closed at 46.96, down 3.5 or 7%. So the stock has really not performed. But the confusing part is that the direct listing was supposed to be so that there was not much in the way of restriction for people who were involved with the company, owned the stock, may have had shares that they got as compensation or were allowed to buy, and were not subject to a lockup. Most of these direct listings are done for that exact reason, so that people who have stock and have worked there or whatever don't have to wait. They can take advantage of a great opening, which clearly this one was. So today's news that there's an early release of the lockup of 34 million shares is kind of confusing to me. That is a pretty big number, and clearly the market didn't like it. So, as I said, the stock closed down 7.5%. The chart on the screen is the nat gas, which I was trying to buy yesterday. And if you recall in this morning's video, I said, I was looking for a move down followed by a close near the high, and we actually were trading near the high in this yesterday after bouncing off the 200-day MA and having a pretty extended drop, 5, 10, 15, 20 days, 18 days, all the way from $3.32 all the way down to yesterday's low at 247 and change. So when it was closing on the low, I pulled the order. There were a couple of people who didn't wait and paid. We were trying to buy it at 15. Some of them bought it at 17. And in fact, it closed down. This morning, it opened about unchanged and had the kind of day I was looking for yesterday, and managed a pretty nice close, up 7.8 cents up here at 256 and change. Tonight it's up some minor amount. This is somewhat concerning to me. I'm disappointed that we didn't get it. I believe that those options that I was trying to buy yesterday at 15 today had a range of 16 to 22. It looked like they closed at 22, but that was more of inactivity because they were only $18, 18 cents bid, offered at 20 cents. So we'll have to see tomorrow. The thing is, if this is in fact reversing, I don't mind paying a little more, more for the direction once I know it's there. But frankly, we're still under the falling 5-day moving average. And as I mentioned yesterday, I expected this to cross again, which it did. And this is the 20-day breaking below the red line here, which is the 100, and also on today's action, breaking below the 50. So, I'm kind of disappointed we missed it. I'm not sure that we have in the grand scheme of things, and so I will reevaluate that. We also have the GE calls. The stock was down a little after being strongly higher. Not concerned about that at all. Definitely want to maintain that position. So, oil, which was down 60 cents today, is up 13 cents tonight. As I said, the nat gas is up less than a cent, 0.2 cents. The gold is about unchanged, down $0.50. The silver is down 2.3 cents, which is really nothing. We did have a nice move up in the coffee, which everybody knows I've been a bull on for quite some time, certainly against this low that I was talking about last week, where we got down. I was looking for to be long as close to this orange line, which is the 50-day moving average. We pierced it for a nanosecond at 126.60. We never got to my sell stop, which was 124.95. Closed on the high, and we have continued to move up. Yesterday we had kind of a big range day, but in point of fact, it's still, even yesterday, was down only 90 cents and closed mid-range, and today up $2.40. If we can close above this area, this particular close is 135.80. We are 134.50. This one doesn't trade at night like this. I think that we will test the high at the very least. And to give you a little bit better view of this, let's go to the weekly and you'll see what it is that I've been following. As you can see, we had this long-term downtrend line, which clearly we have broken out of. We pulled back into it, and now we're starting higher. Again, if we close this on a weekly basis, the high close is 137.5. If we break that, I'm pretty certain we're going to see $1.50, maybe even $1.60 on this, depending upon how it gets there. I'm not really a fundamentalist when it comes to the futures. Dennis and I have a constant battle about about my trading of futures since he is so much better. This happens to be coffee happens to be his second best commodity for trading, right behind the gold. So I think that he's probably bullish. I don't know whether he's in it or not because I didn't discuss it with him today. But as you can see, it looks like we're coming out of a nice consolidation, and realize that this consolidation goes all the way back to 2019, 5/6/2019. So basically 2 years coming up in May of this consolidation. The only other one that I really wanted to show you was the lumber, which I am negative on, and it had kind of an interesting day today. Also, it closed down 22.5. I'll have to go back to the daily to show you what is meaningful here. Let's go back. And as you can see, this looks like it's trying to roll over again. The 5-day, the purple line, has rolled over, as I pointed out over the weekend. We are piercing only slightly, but piercing the 20-day to the downside, which would be a reversal. I mean, when you look at this, there are a bunch of gaps. Those gaps, though, tend to be either the roll of the contract or limit moves. As you can see, each of these days where there's a very short range closing on the high, those are limit up days. So we hit this red line, which was the 100-day moving average, bounced off it, and then moved from 635 to a new high at 994, whereupon we gapped to the downside, and when we rallied back up, we could not get into the gap very far, came back down, little double top here, unable to get any further into the gap. And I'm going to guess if we close below this 815 number, which we can easily do this week, I'm going to guess we're going to close some of these gaps. Futures in general do not like to leave gaps unless they're breakaway gaps. And this one might be a breakaway gap to the downside. Don't really know. All right, everyone. Don't forget. Oh, by the way, I just want to mention that there were 3 or 4 people, including the CEO at Blackstone, who had some very interesting comments on ESG trading and all of the funds. And basically, they say ESG is BS. It's just another marketing tool. Performance is not there, and inflows into it are there only because it's a bleeding heart issue. Not that I disagree that we shouldn't have sustainable, solid governance, and I get that, but that doesn't mean that it's a valid investment strategy. I'm not going to say it isn't, because it's relatively new, and there are ways to make good money in companies that are sustainable, that have solid governance, that have diversity on the board. But as a reason for hiring people, it's BS. All right, everyone, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll be back in the morning.